Hello, hello, and welcome to another edition of Grown Folks Business on a beautiful Thursday. Started off a little wet and rainy, but we cleared up and it's very nice out. Want to say welcome to Celeste. She's been joining us over the summer. Ain't had nothing else to do, I guess, but greatly appreciate your presence. I appreciate you so much, and I think you're the perfect person to have for this topic because the questions I have are just fine and dandy. But you and I have been meaning to have a more robust conversation anyway, and given that you've kind of changed some things around career-wise, I think the topic tonight is perfect for what you're dealing with, being in the present, because who knows where this is going. That's the topic. So you got to kind of be in the moment sometime and really gauge that. Otherwise, you might be going somewhere you really don't want to go. So I know you've made some adjustments, and we'll get to some of that if you're comfortable. Don, you appreciate you being here and doing what you do. So Celeste and I gonna do this dance and enjoy this conversation, and hopefully maybe make someone out there in the internets feel good about what they're thinking in the present. So be in the present because who knows where this is going. First and foremost, some of what I kind of was thinking about when I came up with this particular topic was something you mentioned off air, Celeste, and it was sports related. I was watching a show and a quarterback was talking about you have to be present, you have to be in the moment. You can't be thinking about too much what's going on and in front of you and too much what's going on behind you. You have to actually be in the very moment that you're executing. In his case, a play, a pass, or changing a call at the line of scrimmage. For me, in that sports realm, it's kind of golf. I think the best I play is when I actually am not thinking about all the mechanics of the swing. It's literally being in the moment and knowing that I need to execute this shot. I need to execute this shot. It's not all of the shots at once. It's one, two, three, and then a putt. It's a whole lot more focus involved with being present. So sports being that thing that kind of brought this to my mind, I also apply it when I'm trying to be creative or productive work wise when I'm writing. I think you can commiserate with me on that exercise, and I don't know how you do it, but there's a level of being present that has to be had in my mind to get those words out to make that sentence make sense. Because yeah, I'm not a person that does a lot of revisions. I try to revise as I go. That's one of the habits that I have. So I have to be fully there to get that thought articulated, then go back and change some stuff around as I go because that's how I'm that's how I'm wired when it comes to getting that thing done. But that to me is also being present because literally I'm looking at the type and I'm like, oh, well, I need to change this. I need to move this around. I need to put a comma there and a period. So I'm literally being present as I'm constructing whatever I'm working on at the time. So when do you, Celeste, feel like you're 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 most in the present? Is there a particular thing? Like I said, I'll go with golf. Um, I thought about when I came up with that question also, and I don't want to step on anything you have to say, but when I'm talking to someone who's older, um, maybe someone who is not doing well, who I know needs that extra level of being present or that extra level of understanding that you're actually there. Um, that's one of those times that I know um, that I'm more present than not. Does that make sense? And you can take it from there.
I would definitely say I feel present when I'm being impactful with my words and my time. I don't feel like my time and efforts are being wasted. And when I feel like whatever I'm doing is making me peaceful in the moment or will bring me peace later on, I would say I feel present. I would honestly say when I feel powerful. And for me, power can be just having peace and, I don't know, productivity in a day, doing something that I feel is helpful to the community around me. For me, being present and being peaceful go hand in hand. When you said golf, I started laughing instantly because we know that Felton is at peace when he is swinging the club. Like, it's known, it's understood. You you are going to play golf. You are going to play golf well, and you are going to be relaxed while you do so. I would say just doing things in the community, doing things with friends, doing things with family, setting out what I do. When I make my little to-do list, I don't know if you make lists, Felton, but whenever I make a list and I get to the bottom of it and I hit all them checks, it's a great day.
The whiteboard is a pretty neat thing to have and to cross out stuff once you get it done. I'm not a I don't practice it as much as I should, but when I do, Celeste, when I know my cup is near to running over, it's getting to that point, I want to just have a couple of things up there. And I think that puts you in a way more heightened sense of being present when you know that this thing needs to get done and you're like, oh, okay, that's next. And you get it done and then you get to mark it out. So there was some level of focus required for that to take place.
Absolutely.
So how critical is being focused to you? So when I say that one, I'm in the mindset, personally speaking, it's hard for me to focus, but it is extremely critical. So I try to create environments and I try to um, do certain things that compel me to truly lock in. This past spring, when I was preparing for my comps, I knew I couldn't do it, at the house. I couldn't be in the same environment. I had to go somewhere else. So to kind of create that presentist feeling that do this now and be here and be focused, I went to the library and went up to like the quietest floor where nobody was and put two of those cubicle seat things together and kind of made it just my little cave, so to speak. But it's critical that I get focused, but I have to find the way. So how critical is it for you to be focused, and do you have any methods to increase the chances of your focus?
For me to get focused, I need sleep. Um, like a good night's rest is going to be the key to me being productive that day. Um, I would say if I'm well rested, I need to work in the morning for good focus. Like some people are night owls, their best work happens at 2 or 3 in the morning. No, I need to be in bed at 10. I'll wake up around 6. I'll work till about 10. And transparently, my best work happens between the hours of 7 a.m. and 11. I go ahead and start wrapping up my day at 3. After 3, my brain don't work no more. Y'all have a good one. Um, good sleep early in the morning. I would say, you know how people always talk about that healthy work environment? When I have like a good environment that I'm in, that's when I have good focus. But those 3 things, that's the key to a great day. That's the key to a productive day.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on the feeling some type of connectivity to the people that are in the shared space, if there is one. Um, if it's a common goal, if there's moments where you, okay, we're gonna talk about this and then go do your own thing and then come back and share out ideas and such. Um, yeah, I think a good environment is not a busy one, but is one where you're not the sole uh, person being the only person being productive or trying to be productive. Everybody's having a head scratch moment, not just you. So that was a good observation. You said something earlier that I wanted to also uh, speak on, and it was you said uh, something about power and relates as it relates to being present. Um, that kind of resonates because there is something empowering when you know what the hell you're talking about, and you have a a room or you have a meeting or space or area and you're being received as you intend. Um, a lot of that is yeah, you're actually addressing something that was exchanged in that environment, or some project that you're a part of. But if you are present in the way of having showing some authority and some knowledge and know what you're talking about, yeah, being present can be powerful. I meant to touch on that a moment ago. I think that is a good observation. Do you have any examples of yourself, especially recently? Because I know you switched some things around, and I think that was powerful. And I think you were present in your personal existence, like, hey, I gotta restructure some things and take another route at the moment. Not giving up, but understanding that there's something else I got to do over here that requires my attention. So was that, if you want to unpack that a little bit, was that empowering? Because you mentioned it before. Was that moment that you knew that you were saying I'm gonna do something else for a while? Was that empowering?
It had to be empowering because we're talking about the law school thing, right? Yes, for me that was empowering because you hear throughout life like people might not like you because in my case you're a woman. People might not like you because you are black. I was not prepared for the people might not like you because they feel like you've accomplished too much or done too much for your age. Um, People that love to watch grown folks business. I'm still in my 20s. Um, yeah, I'm young. And I do have a lengthy resume because I like my job. I like my career path. I love what I do. I like the communities, the engagement. Shoot, I want to teach the Democratic Party of the United States how to actually communicate and come into Black and brown communities. Don't come on no white liberal BS. Come with actual policies to help and impact your community. Like
You're trying to bring them to the present. That was just yeah.
that's what I want to do. And meeting people who are offended, intimidated, or very taken back by that and come with their own bias, it made me learn that I have to be prepared to walk into spaces where it's not those base level things that I was taught to expect that will offend people. It's things that you think people would be proud of, people would be excited to hear about, excited to see your impact. And from that, I had to change how I walk into rooms. But the way that I chose to change is to walk in with my head up, walk in prepared to deal with whatever bias comes at me, but I'm not going to apologize for my accomplishments. I had to go lick my wounds, get my feelings together. I learned that Google is a tool. People will be as nosy as possible. And I've learned that don't talk about it, walk about it, which I already knew, but now it's genuinely one of those things where I show up to do what I came here to do and I move on through it. And for me, that is power because when I go somewhere on a mission, I go somewhere with a goal, I'm going to complete that goal. And everybody in the room might not like the fact that I complete another goal, but it's going to get done. But with that, we just might not make a lot of friends when we get there. And the 3 friends that we make will have when we leave, those professional connections will exist and will grow. I found power in I found power in my own confidence in myself.
You found power in that confidence, and I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, in trusting yourself, in knowing that this, and if it didn't feel good and look good and smell good, I have to go recalibrate. I'll be back, but this is not where I'm at right now. So I need to go do a couple things over here, and I'll come back and finish this task later. I think a lot of folks will just subject themselves to a relentless amount of stress or uncomfortability, uncomfort, and think that it's meaningful to suffer to a high degree. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm working on the PhD. You have all the accolades that you have, and you going to law school. Um, That's not supposed to be easy. There's supposed to be some grind in it. And that's literally how, you kind of get a little filtering going on. You find out who can stick and stay. But you have to be strategic in some of that because you only get one brain, as far as we know. So it ain't no need in messing that up. You know what I mean? So
They
you
ain't
just
figured out how to do no brain transplant yet.
they ain't got that one down yet. I think they trying still, and it just ain't working out.
Yeah,
Must be something that ain't meant to happen. So
they can
yeah,
keep.
I'm with you on that. But yeah, I mean, say more if you can. Like that was a big decision though, and to find peace with it, to find power with it, and to trust yourself was, I think, I'm very much appreciative of who you are across the board, and I'm even more so for you understanding. Hey, there's other things that need my attention right now.
Well, Felton one, I very much admire you. You are a wonderful individual. Y'all, Felton he be ready to have me going back and forth at him in real life. We definitely done had some moments where I was like, Felton, we could just take it outside and fight real quick because you done got on that last good nerve that's right here that most people can't find. But wonderful individual, love him very much. I would say I learned something that I'm now going back and telling other Black law students who are starting their journey, and also people who are looking at law school as a second career, as a Black woman, as a Black man, because I can I can speak of what it is to be a law student in general, but the feelings that you have internally about how people feel about you being there, I can only speak to those as a Black person and a Black woman. Um, and what I tell people, what I'm telling young, like Black law students now, young, old, second career, some people third career. Like there's a woman I met who's coming in now to a law school. She has a PhD in biochemistry. My sister, let's talk about how you got one of the hardest PhDs out there, and then you're gonna decide to go to law school. My Black queen, I love you. I'm so proud of you. But are you sure you want to do that? But that's the same thing that people say to me whenever I'm like, oh, I'm going to law school. They're like, why? What's the point? What's the purpose here? And I always start now with make your accounts private. Um, I had 65 views on my LinkedIn profile after orientation. Half of my class went and looked me up. Um, it's best for people to not necessarily know who you are when you're starting something because the amount of bias that can raise up against you. Just as
And
an
they didn't even know you. That's the whole thing. People are
no,
okay with taking that digital version and trying to apply it. We have enough trouble in life actually getting the opportunity to really get to know someone if you're on a bus with them or if you're at a restaurant and saying hello. But how much more of a malformed picture can you develop when you think you can go just read stuff that's going to give you or not even necessarily read, just look at images and pictures, you
and
know?
it's weird because my classmates, I don't believe genuinely cared. It was going to be my teachers in that moment, like the professors around me, because everybody is entitled to their own views, everybody is entitled to their own political stances, all of that stuff. But some people take that very personally. Me personally, not on behalf of NC 100, not speaking towards the organization, any of that. Me personally, I'm very liberal. I believe in LGBTQ rights, Black rights, immigrants' rights. I believe people deserve rights. I believe people have freedoms. I believe people should be able to be who they want to be as long as they are not harming anybody else, themselves, children, or animals. That's my personal stance on a lot of things. The amount of people who will disagree with you and hold that against you personally. Before I went to law school, I had a lot of papers that I had published while in grad school pulled off the internet because you don't know who you're going to come into contact with. You don't know what future employer might read something about you. Like me, I wrote a paper about criminal justice reform, how we can reform it to have a more European and Dutch system. Prisoners shouldn't be treated like animals. Um, I know a lot of people are prison abolitionists. I wrote a paper about how I'm not, because I believe that certain types of crimes you should go to jail for, specifically things that involve pedophilia, sexual assault, those things. Because yeah, I don't care how cool I am. You harm a child, go under the prison real quick. So for those things, what if you encounter somebody who, although I'm not a prison abolitionist, they believe that even petty crimes deserve prison, and therefore I'm funneling and funding XYZ when it comes to prisoners, people who shouldn't be in jail. They come up with their own views about whatever I have said via paper. I didn't realize how, I knew my words were impactful, but I did not know that people who were supposed to leave that at the door would be so impacted. Going into a job interview, somebody had pulled my entire thesis up. My thesis was 105 pages. It was about universal health care. Apparently that person wasn't necessarily a fan of losing their funds, because they were a doctor who worked with the organization, and if universal health care became a thing, he would have lost his money, and therefore he was not a fan.
So you're thinking now retroactively. However, you can apply this during your time off. Like take that stuff down if you feel like it's going to impact how you perceived. Because you the thing about, and I'm not a person who believes that your reputation always precedes you, but that's the society we're in, and people get to know you before they actually get to know you, and they form ideas about what your reputation is. But I like that you're thinking strategically, and you're actually offering that bit of advice to anyone else that's thinking about trying to enter into the academy in any way, as far as what's there. That was a warning that has been around since social media really became a thing. But you're kind of inverting what used to be the warning. It was don't have any nude stuff, or you're drinking and you're drunk and you're partying and doing drugs. Those are the things to avoid having on social media. You're actually kind of inverting that and having to wrestle with having the things that make sense for, you know, that should make sense for professional development or professional opportunities. That's interesting. Um, but to try to get this back to the conversation around being present, that's to me, that's everything that you were during that process to figure that out. You know what I mean? Like you had to be really paying attention and understanding that, yeah, okay, this is not a normal interaction. This is highly abnormal given that I'm in the same place as these other people who are going for the same thing I'm going for. And it sounds like you didn't have any connectivity. You didn't have any common struggle, like somebody being on the same page. It is very important. And I'm gonna say this, and you can tell me how that went. It is super important when you're at those levels of academia. You don't have to have best friends, but there's a reason the term colleagues exists. I consider you a colleague. There are people that I have worked with at UNCG and otherwise in those higher levels of academia. They're colleagues for a reason. It's a shared struggle, and it's only a few people that can relate to that. So, did you have that?
I will say academia, master's programs, PhDs for me, colleague in academia makes a lot of sense there, because I plan to get a PhD in government at some point in my life. It was going to be right after law school. We're going to rethink that. Um but we publish papers, we're talking about different things. In academia, you have different views about different topics, and we can go back and forth, we can agree to disagree. I know you don't like the phrase agree to disagree, but in academia sometimes that's just, I ain't gonna go back and forth with you all day. You believe what you believe. I believe what I believe. My students are gonna learn one way and have it taught to them this way. We're all gonna read the same thing. But when it comes down to what's something that I like to teach about? The intersection of African Americans and government versus the intersection of African immigrants and government. Um, it goes into when people from the Caribbean Black people from the Caribbean come over to America, their experience still having connections to the African diaspora, and then African Americans who lost their connection to the continent of Africa. I don't know where I come from. People from the islands don't necessarily know where they come from either. And then people that come directly from the African continent to America, they have those connections. They're very deep. How does
Let,
that
let,
govern?
let's unpack that a little bit, and
Yeah.
this is why you're a colleague. Um, yeah, there's this notion of there being some disconnect that Black Americans experienced and continue to suffer from some malnourishment of identity that was lost. There was an identity gain, and a lot of what I try to get communicated, especially to my students, and I'm teaching on slave resistance again this semester, which I got to get that together before Tuesday. But yeah, there was something else that came from this mass population shift and these people who were created here in this country. And there's something worthy of our attention in understanding that we are just in high proximity in terms of uh, time to this new origin. And in our country of origin, which is America, we are continuously disrupted from actually embracing and elevating that identity. We are constantly othered, and we sometimes other ourselves, and then we search for some mystical, magical, we were kings type thing, and we just, to me, we limit the greatness of our perseverance in this land that some would argue is forsaken, but it's ours, warts and all. So I know that there's a cultural um, closeness in terms of some people who come from the continent of Africa who are more connected to the country or tribe or origins of various natures. But man, we got something here special, and we've influenced the world. We've influenced the world as a group that is super connected at the foundation and the stitching of what made America and what makes America now. But we kind of don't embrace it as we should, and we should. I'll say that. But anyway, go ahead. You can
Yeah.
respond.
When we talk about it in the class setting, the way I kind of break it down is the way that African Americans interact with the American government is through a complete history of oppression, beratement, degrading. Basically, Black people were treated like animals, and that's essentially how the American government was built. That's how the Americas were founded. People like to move past certain aspects, and I'm like, the Capitol was built by slaves. The White House was built by slaves in 1812 when the British burned it down, rebuilt by slaves. Benjamin Banneker designed the architecture and the makeup of Washington, D.C., and how even the streets would move. And then we get to, slavery, Jim Crow, Reconstruction, all that. African Americans have this direct history, this direct touching with the American government and how it's going to function. They play a piece in how it functions because they help build the economy so that it's taken seriously. What um I tell students, I'm like, Black people help build the American economy but see no benefits from it. And now we're getting into it where Black people are still being taken advantage of, but because white Americans can no longer go to the continent of Africa and take Black people for free. They want to protest in the streets about Latinx immigrants coming over, but they now need their labor and to put them through a different set of issues because they can no longer kidnap Black people from their homes. But that's
That's
the
a strong reach, but and I love where we're at right now. I want to keep talking about this. Um, I've kind of come away from even using the word African American. I prefer Black American because, again, look, and African Americans is a relatively new identifier. That's like 70s. We just have been in constant search of something that identifies this people that are native to this land at this point, truly native, and it's.
I figure out
Hmm,
what Africa my family came from.
I'm sorry.
I said I had to do a DNA test to find what part of Africa my family came from.
Why everybody's from Africa? That's the whole. If everybody that takes a DNA test actually finds out that they're from Africa, because Africa is where everybody's from, so everybody's African American. That is in
Well,
America.
we can't say that, and the reason we can't say that, what is it? It just made its little appearance on social media today. The what are they? The famous family, Kim Kardashian, them people. The oldest Jenner daughter, Kendall, the model, she did the DNA whatever,
Mhm.
and she was 100% Northwestern European.
You do know that you're completely losing me by even talking about the Kardashians on
Look,
here. I don't
I
believe
know,
none. I don't believe everybody from Africa. There's
I
gonna be some part
I
of Africa
have
in you.
Africa theory, and everybody's ancestors do come from Africa. Yes,
Exactly.
but saying that certain people are so developed, I don't know, evolved past that through constant.
Oh no, I dig it. I dig what you're saying.
Yeah,
It's going to
but
be a lesser percentage. The percentage is still probably in there, but it's just going to be so. It's going to be more minute. But
but
I'm not. I'm not. That's the Kardashians. I ain't.
yeah,
Look, we ain't talking
look,
about the Kardashians on here no more. Anyway,
look, it's just what happened today. It just is what happened.
question for you. I don't know if you saw this, and I would ask, and I would say this. This is some of the reason that I'm hesitant about continuing to use African American, even though I'm in a minority and so many things have been named with using those words that it's going to be tough um, to be more specific when I'm in those spaces because everybody's using that. But I saw Tyler Perry put up a post. Um, it was an image of he and Barack Obama, and they were about to sit in some chairs that he had bought that once belonged to Abraham Lincoln. And he was saying something. I'm definitely paraphrasing, and he removed the post because he got so much flack behind it. He was saying something along the lines of, when Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, wonder if he was ever knew that one day we would have a descendant of those slaves occupy the White House.
You
He
know,
calls.
I'm sorry. Let's pause real quick. One thing, Abraham Lincoln was a racist, and I
Hold on. So when people do that, now listen, we're gonna have that conversation in just a second because I always have to defend Honest Abe, and it's unfortunate because we have this presentist talking about being present, this presentist mindset. But we're gonna get to that in just a second. Back to Tyler Perry. So he made this post. What's wrong with the post? Why did he catch so much flack? Because Barack Obama doesn't descend from American slave, the institution of American slave. He doesn't. He has no connection to it.
no, his
His father was Kenyan, and his mother was white. So his only connection might be that potentially his mother's people own some slaves. But that's the low bar, right? That you're in the classroom setting, but look at who are the major influences that don't know enough and be saying stupid stuff. And then when you challenge them, when you try to correct them, they can't be present with you. They gotta run to their silo where they're always right or where they're comfortable and they can just say whatever. So anyway, I had to get that part out. Now, one real quick, Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, everybody was pretty much racist then. And slavery was an institution. Yes, he entertained and was a big fan of deportation, but he also spoke on the humanity a lot. And he doesn't get to where he got to on the matter without being someone that we should still appreciate. Now, does that mean he was perfect? Absolutely not. Much like Malcolm X, I love those two historical figures for this fact. Well, I love them because they were pretty dynamic individuals and helped to influence and change the world during their time here. But it's unfortunate that they their lives were cut short as we were witnessing some form of transformation. That's why I keep those two in the same uh, form of thought when it comes to this lifetime we get. You're going to be thinking one thing, something else going to happen, and you change your mind about it, or you might grow to accept things that you didn't know you ever would. And that's literally what we were seeing with someone like Lincoln, and his life is ended before we get to see the final act. Malcolm X is progressing and growing on matters and being more inclusive and understanding that it's not about being separate or segregated, but his life is cut short. So there's more to it than just, when people, he was racist. Yeah, everybody was. And he actually spoke at times saying things about the safety of those black folks. Because, yeah, white folks they just didn't, they wasn't going to be no consequence for them doing what they did. And you saw that after the Civil War, after Lincoln's dead, the early 1900s, black people were catching hell and white folks didn't face no consequences for it. So anyway, I'm going to get to another question. Unless you had something you want to say.
Oh no, I was just what was it? It was something that you said. I forgot. We'll come back to it later.
Okay. And there's a really, I have I don't know if I have it, but there's a good book if you haven't checked it out. It's called Giants. I can't remember the author, but it's a dual biography of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. So you'll read some pages and it'll be about Abraham Lincoln growing up and what have you. And then you'll read some more pages and be about Frederick Douglass. And the book kind of comes together when they meet, and they start having conversations and stuff.
Yeah,
so, yeah, it's a good book, and I it's somewhere, I don't know where it is, but you could definitely just type in Giants, Abraham Lincoln, and Frederick Douglass, and you don't, Abraham Lincoln, first guy to have a black man in the White House on some respectable stuff. That doesn't happen again for, I want to say it was 50 years or something. It was crazy. It was a crazy amount of time that passed before that happens again.
I was thinking MLK and Lyndon B.
I feel like, I'm not certain, but I feel like Booker T might have got in there, but I'm not certain.
I feel like Booker T and FDR, I feel like they hung out. I don't know if
that was Teddy Roosevelt, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll talk. We'll do that research before we both get rambling and somebody be like, "What they talking about?" So anyway, how can being fully present be beneficial in relationships? Not just talking about romantic relationships, but you can include those. Talking about any relationship, family, friends, romantic is business. Man, I think there's some serious benefits to being fully present. I'll say, and you can add on, please, but I'll say gaining clearer understanding, eliminating or lessening the possibilities for misunderstandings, which can lead to conflict, right? So you ever talk to somebody, and this happens to me sometimes, I'm not calling anybody out. If you're listening and you're watching, it's all love. But you ever talk to somebody or have a conversation and they completely pick up 2 or 3 things when you done said 7 to 10 things, and maybe the percentages should be at least at 5 to 8 because, hey, that there was some stuff that was said other than what triggered your response and blah, blah, blah. So what are the benefits of being fully present in a relationship, in any relationship?
Being fully present, what you said was actually the first thing I thought of. Being present has a lot to do with recognizing the audience that you're speaking to. If I decide to go on a history ramble like we were about to go on and say about 10 facts about the Roosevelts going off to Eleanor and her moves for integration, and then I want to jump to like George Wallace, segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. I want to jump back to Martin and Malcolm and going back to the period of Reconstruction. I can only do that stuff with somebody like you. I have to know. My mother was so big on this with me growing up because I was a nerd, much like I am now. And imagine a 10-year-old child trying to ramble on about all the things she's learned about Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement and all this stuff to a whole bunch of 40, 50-year-old women who ain't picked up a history book since they was 18 years old in high school. Knowing my audience, me and you can go back and forth and you're going to catch all 10 of the things that I say. Being present is knowing that I can't do that with somebody like Danya. I'm gonna use you for an example that I don't know. Y'all, Danya is very smart, but he might not be a history buff like I am because he does the tech stuff. If I run up to him and I want to tell him 15 facts about Adolf Hitler, World War II, Americans, and them coming in because of the submarines and da da da. Danya might be like, Celeste, I heard like 3 things and all 15 things that you said simply because I don't care about all the things that was going on with World War II, with Stalin, the big 3. What you got Winston Churchill coming out of Great Britain, FDR's on his 3rd term. Like Danya's probably just like, okay. Knowing your audience is also being present. Knowing your audience means you understand what you're going to say in that moment that's going to actually reach them. Like the class that I love to teach about different Black people from different diasporas experiencing the American government. When I'm talking to, I usually would teach that class like sophomores. Sophomores, they don't necessarily know a lot yet, but they're kind of into it. They're getting to that point where it's like, ooh, I could sit in this class all day. Freshmen, if I go in there talking about how people from the Caribbean, but what are they called? Afro-Caribbean, technically. Um, they don't necessarily have the direct connection to Africa because the slave ship stopped at a different point. So they're in Jamaica, they're in St. Martin, they're in St. Thomas, and they have a different connection to the African diaspora because they were able to keep more of their connection to the continent of Africa. So their understanding of the American government is going to be oppressive through the stripping of resources, XYZ. What is it? And it's not even going to necessarily be on America. It's going to be on Great Britain. Again, what I say to Felton makes sense. Talking about that to 18-year-olds fresh out of high school who are still learning about the diaspora of different Black people in different places, it's amazing. And then in that moment, also discovering what Afro-European is. A lot of people from the continent of Africa ended up in Europe. They ended up getting oppressed by a different government. They attempt to relate to African Americans, although they can't relate to slavery because everybody's been oppressed by white people at some point. Even on the continent of Africa, let's talk about Belgium and King Leopold and how he tore up the Congo. So
I never went there, never visited.
Never visited, but
yeah,
these are
but
things
George Washington. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying those are things that you can only talk about in great detail immediately, right off the rip to people that know. Speaking to your audience, me and you can talk about that all day. Me and those 18-year-olds, they go home and they're emailing me the next day like, Miss Celeste, did you know? Miss Celeste, did you? And I'm like, I knew. I'm happy.
So connect this just as best you can because you did take it to a place that I think is worthy. I love the fact that you acknowledge your audience. You have to know your audience. That impacts the presentness of both parties. But in a relationship that you value, again, family, friends, romance, whatever, that benefit, I think, it has to be mutual, and it can't just be about knowing your audience, because at some point you might not want to know that audience anymore if if that just grates on you, right? Even if it's family, it's like, okay,
Well, knowing your audience keeps you out of those conversations because at my Thanksgiving table, ain't no way I'm gonna start a conversation about politics. You got my dad who swear that he went to law school with me, who swear that he gave a political presentation with me. You got my uncle who's gonna take it all the way there with his nice conservative Christian views, but I'm still a Democrat. Da 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 da. Knowing your audience saves you from a little bit of the crazy because ain't no way Celeste gonna bring no type of political speech. And as soon as they start and say, Celeste, what do you think about Obama?
So I concur with that as well. I guess I'm a glutton for punishment at times because I welcome the challenge. And, I think you know that.
So, Don, we know who not to go to Thanksgiving with. We not going to hang out at Felton Thanksgiving.
Because I'm just here for the banter. I love the banter. How can being in the present benefit your future? I think this again relates to what you just decided to do. I think this relates to me professionally. I don't get too enamored with the future. I am very much a presentist, and I believe that tomorrow's not promised. But I think being in the present, if you take care of some things today, if you take care of some things when it's time to do them, man, they can benefit you on down the line. It can be a future outcome that is maybe not the most perfect, the one that you truly desire, but it might be more tolerable. You know what I mean? It might be something that you can live with. So, in your opinion, how can being in the present benefit your future?
Your present, I feel, sets the foundation for your future. My again, I'm talking about my mother. She'd be so happy. People usually compare me to my father, and she was just like, I guess I wasn't there at all in the creation of you. Um, my mother, again, she always says, Celeste, you think too much about the future. It's why you get anxious. It's why you get nervous. It's why you can't sleep sometimes. Performing well in the present sets a foundation for a great future. I feel like once somebody gets to a certain point in life, they decide what they want to do, they settle on their plan. You don't know necessarily where that road takes you, but you know the path you're going down. And each step is a step in the right direction. And when you're in your present, it's like, I want to say it's the equivalent of going down the path, finding a place to pitch your tent and rest, getting good rest, and then waking up for the next day. That's what being present in your present does for your future. I would say it's like having a map. You see the map, you don't know what you don't know what you're gonna run into. You don't know the obstacles on the path. You don't know the goals, the successes, the great points on the path. But you know there's a path. You know there's a map to it. You know that once you get to each point, you keep going. Being present in your present lays the foundation, takes you further down the path, gets you a little bit closer to whatever goal, whatever dream you're chasing. Like me, I have 50,000 different goals. I don't know how I'm gonna get there. I just know I'm gonna keep going.
You got to keep going. That's all. And the time is up when the time is up. You can't predict when that is, even if you try to. That sometimes don't work. So that yeah, that's you can't. Before we know, not the hour is the realest thing, man. We don't know, but while we're here, and you said a lot of things that kind of touch on previous shows. I know I've talked about the path. I've talked about best laid plans and all of that good stuff. But I think the thing that resonates the most with what you just said is if you have a destination in mind, don't have to be complete and full picture, but if you have something, and one of mine is just being a decent human being. So along these travels, the people I interact with, they may not all come to that conclusion, but it's going to be my sincerest effort to be that person, to be a decent human being, to treat others with the kindness and respect that I hope to enjoy and to receive. Uh, so yeah, man, look, you and I have still other subject matter to debate about, and I know we talked about doing a man versus woman episode, so this might have been what we should have did tonight, but
So you can lose.
huh?
I said so you can lose because I'm ready.
I still can't hear you. I think you're muted in
Oh
my
no, I
brain.
hear over my mic.
In my brain, I think in my brain I can't hear you. So I'm gonna
Why,
keep
Danya, get him. Danya, get him.
I'm gonna keep talking. But nah, this has been wonderful, and I appreciate you on this wonderful Thursday evening being present with me. And man, I look, you know how much I value you. I think you're an awesome person, and I know you got great things coming up. Just take the beats when you need them. Take the breaks, take naps, chill, relax, and
We've
take care of
learned that.
yourself because this thing gonna be going on without us, and that's how that goes. I give you the final word if you have something you want to add.
I was gonna say definitely learn the importance of breaks for the audience. I'm 25 years old and I like to work, so I stay working a lot. I meet amazing people like Felton from time to time. They show me why I'm here. And Felton, we're gonna manifest greatness. We're gonna go out here and accomplish stuff, teach people, raise up the next generation to be as strong and stronger than we are. And it's just gonna be a great world of turning. Manifest positivity. I said manifest positivity.
And that's how we reach utopia. I'm laughing. But yeah, that's how we get closer to it. Hey, look, thank you all for tuning in and tuning out and doing what you're doing in these spaces. Internets, appreciate you. Celeste, thank you for joining and having a good conversation. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better person to discuss this present mindset, this thing about being in the moment with. And Danya, I always appreciate you for what you do. Everyone out there, have a wonderful night. Take good care. Be good, Celeste.
You
Be
too.
good, Danya.